Hello everyone, my name is Wong and I'm a photographer and videographer here in Los Angeles. I shoot lots of portraits, I have done wedding before, I also shoot lots of cosplay, and also a bunch of stuff, and I mainly shoot with Nikon. So last week when Nikon announced their Z6III, I was thrilled. I wanted to get a new camera actually for doing videos, especially since video is now one of the biggest things on every single platform, and it is some content I also been exploring and also trying to do more into. So with that said, I have instantly ordered my Nikon Z6III as soon as it was available to order. And I actually have been using Nikon almost my whole life. I have used other camera before, but I am no stranger from the Z series. I started out when the Z7 came out. I have my Z6. So right now, the front camera right now is seeing right now, it's actually the Z7. I have a Z6 on the side, a Z50 on top of me, and also a Z30 as my webcam. In my backpack over there, I also have a Z8. So as you can tell, I have a bunch of, don't forget, it's a ZFC behind. So with that said, you can tell I'm a bit familiar with the Z series, which I really love and, adore. But what we're going to do today is that we are going to do a little bit of unboxing so you can see what's actually inside a box. If you are planning to order Z6, this would be great for you to take a look. If you also want to stick around, I'm also going to go through the whole menu of the Z6III to show you what I would choose to do with the setting. You can kind of see what it feels like to when I first, start out with the camera, to know what's the default and what I switch into. That will, fit my preference a little bit more, but you might also figure out some other preference that makes sense for you. So without further ado, let me just unbox this. First of all, Z6III, yay. Right now, you got the information, a little bit of a serial number card, and please read Nikon Imaging Cloud. Alright, I'll put this to the side. There is a manual in Spanish. That is the one that I got here. I also have a manual right here, which is a user manual. Alright, that one's in English. Very similar to most very similar to most Nikon Z camera unboxing. Alright, once you open the white flap, you're gonna see some stuff here on the left side. First, you have a USB-C to USB-C cable. Alright, and then you're going to have a little holder that you can use on the side of the camera. This is for you to hold your cable, so it's a little bit more easier for you to plug in HDMI cable or other cable when you want to plug this on the side of the camera. It's on the side. And then there is a battery. This is the Nikon ENEL15C, the C version of the ENEL15, which is really admirable, I would say. I'm not sure that's the best word, but this battery has been used for, at least this form factor has been used for like all Nikon camera for a long time. Not all of them, but like all the high-end camera. Like even my Nikon D50, you can really see it's like above me, is using this battery. So I have a lot of this. So if you have been shooting with Nikon, you're gonna be appreciate that they're staying with the same form factor, meaning all the batteries that you already have been using, you can now use this as well. The only major difference I believe for the C version and the other versions is that you can use USB-C to charge this battery while it's inside the camera, while the other ones might not able to do that. But there's also other batteries in the market that allow you to do that. Some even have a USB-C port on the battery itself. If you check out my Instagram, I do have a stories or reel about how there's a battery that can do that. So that is something that I'm more interested in than this one that comes with. And then there's also the Nikon strap. Strap is a 2 yellow line on the back. So Nikon Z style with their signature yellow color. And then right here, you have the Nikon Z6. And that's it. That's all you have in the box. So put this to the side now. So the battery, the camera right here, let me take it out. And ta-da! This is the Nikon Z6III. And then this is the front. This is the side, where you can see the different ports. And here there is the back. There's the top with the LCD screen and the dial and the hot shoes. And at the bottom here, this is where you can put in your battery. Okay, the memory card is on this side. The Z6III do have 2 slots, which is one for CF Express Type B and an SD card. All right, and on the back side, let's go through it one more time. There is a flap P screen. I know it's a flip out screen, I call it a flat P screen. There's a flip out screen here where you can turn it to the bottom, you can turn it to the top, and all the way this way. So now it's gonna be facing you if you're doing some selfie kind of photos or videos, which I really appreciate. I think this is gonna be very important for videographer. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to have. And of course, the viewfinder up here is also supposed to be a major upgrade. So those are the key feature or physical feature on this camera. So that's it. This is the unboxing portion of the camera. If you want to hear a little bit about what I have to say about this camera, I have made another YouTube video talking about my initial thoughts or like idea about this camera. One thing I would like to see in future Nikon Z6 line or whatever the video line is maybe do away with the viewfinder. I know they really emphasize on the viewfinder, but I do want to see a Nikon Z6 maybe 3S, like a special edition one, where there is actually no viewfinder to cut off the top of this camera to make it even smaller. Like if the camera is like this and just cut off from here, I think it'll be even more ideal for videography. Because if you're doing video with a mirrorless camera, if you're doing professionally, most likely you'll attach a monitor. And if you're doing casually, the screen right here should be enough. And also the major issue for me when I'm doing video is that rarely I will put a camera up to my face to do a video because it just doesn't make too much sense. I'll move too much, there's gonna be shake to it. So I don't see myself using this camera viewfinder just when I'm recording videos. For photos, yes, 100%. So I like to see that technology being adopted to the next version of maybe Z7, 8, or 9, or even the 5. So then you can see better, response rate, refresh rate, the responsiveness, and also just overall, better clarity on the viewfinder. But for the Z6 line, I don't think that's too necessary. But again, if you want to hear my rant more on that part, feel free to check out my YouTube just to see that video. So right now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to plug in the battery and I'm going to put a monitor on it. And then I'm going to try to show you all what I would do when I first get a Nikon camera and what kind of setup that makes sense for me. So let's do that. All right, guys, I have cleaned out the table. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to scoot over here a little bit so then you can have this space here to see the manual or what I'm seeing on the screen. I'm going to turn my camera on. So one of the good things is that how all the batteries I said earlier are the same form factor, because the batteries that comes with the camera actually was depleted. So I could not turn on the camera, not even telling me that's not in the battery, it's just completely depleted. So I was able to grab one of my other ones that's already charged and just put in the camera. I'm gonna show you what I'm seeing, okay? So first of all, I'm gonna flip out the screen. You'll see that say no lens attached, which is true. There is no lens attached. I am on the auto mode, so maybe that's the reason why it is telling me that. But if I switch it over to, like, let's say auto mode, it does go away. So it only come back on when I should put in auto mode, which I'm guessing is, for two reasons, right? One is that you might not be using a, CPU lens, which is, a lens that they have provided from Nikon that can read the data, or they just feel like auto is too easy for people and then, or beginner. So they feel like if you're not sure what's going on, that's gonna be an error message just to let you know. But I'm gonna switch over to manual, M mode. Now, right off the bat, you'll see the little clock icon right here. I just took a photo. That's my first shot. It's all black. So Right off the bat, you will see the clock icon here in the upper left, which is flashing. It is something that I'm familiar with because I did see that at the B&H event, which I went last week, that let me play with a Nikon Z6III. And that doesn't mean the time wasn't set up yet, which is true because it is a brand new camera. But other than that, we can go through the display in just a second. But what we're going to do right now is just to look at the manual to see what is my setup, and hopefully you'll answer some question if you're looking for how to set up your Z6III as well. All right, so first off in the manual button, I do see the reset photo shooting manual, which is this one, very self-explanatory. There is file naming. So this is where you can name your file, the first 3 letters, or number, or at least first 3 characters. So traditionally, I would put my name or my initial like MWP for Modern Wong Photo. But nowadays, since I actually do shoot with multiple camera on my shoots, on my sets, I will actually use something different. I would something that's more identified with the camera. So for example, for this one, I would put Z6III because the reason is if I put MWP, I will have a problem of not knowing which camera shot those photos or videos when I go back to put them on the computer. And there might be an issue that if, let's say, you put all your files into your computer and they'll say, oh, same names file, do you want to overwrite it? And you say yes. Then later you realize, oh shoot, because you are using the same naming conventions, so therefore some files have the same name, and now you just lost some file because you overwrite your own files. So I now name my files is unique to the camera, especially if I only have one of that camera. If you have multiple Z6, you might want to change it up a little bit, maybe Z6A, Z6B. So at least, again, different identifier for the camera based on what you're using for the shoot. Primary slot selection, this is telling you like, which is the primary, which is CF Express or /XQD or the SD cards. And then the second slot you can do for overflow, meaning, let's say the first card is full, you go into the second one. Backup is that 2 of the same files are being recorded. Primary for RAW, secondary JPEG, or primary JPEG, secondary also JPEG. And of course, we can go into like more details about what is the file size for each thing. But this is something that I don't use a lot because I don't really shoot with 2 memory card usually. I only use 1 at a time. So I do overflow in case one run out and it goes to the second one. But for a lot of wedding photographer, you might want to choose, backup in case one file get corrupted. You always have a backup just in case. Image area, which is like using a full frame or using the crop sensor or just 1:1 or 16:9. You would most likely choose full frame because you're going to use the whole camera sensor. And if you do need to crop it later, you can crop it in post. I wouldn't do the crop here because if you do the crop here, you won't get the missing part. It would just be gone. So I will only use the full frame parts, which, most likely. The only exception is that, let's say, I need those files instantly from my camera that export to something and I need it to a specific size. But even then, it's a little bit rare for me to use that case. Tone mode, you can use standard tone, HLD, XLG, which is a more newer kind of color space, but not every, not every single monitor or program can read it. So I keep it in SDR. Image quality. Okay, so this is about the JPEG quality. Or like, what kind of file format you're shooting. I mostly only shoot in RAW, so I'll do that. But let's say I do shoot RAW and JPEG, I will choose RAW and JPEG. And then you can choose between, fine, normal, basic. If you are not sure which one to use, you can press the little icon right here, the little magnifying glasses, the -1, and it will tell you what does each thing mean. So you can choose the one that based on your choice. For me, I will choose RAW. Alright. Image size settings, this will only show up if you're shooting JPEG. Recording wise, for RAW, I am choosing high efficiency. Lawless compression is meaning like this literally does have no compressor at all, which the file size get really, really big. So I usually stay at high efficiency, which Nikon does a good job keeping the photos quality at almost like best. So I keep it that way. Do I use high efficiency? Will I do lossless compressions? I don't remember. I'll double check on my camera later. ISO sensitivity which is your ISO setting, but of course you can also change the ISO by pressing a button here on the top and then move your dial. But you can also change it up here. Same with auto ISO. If you hold on the ISO button and you change the front dial, you can toggle on and off of the ISO, auto ISO, which is something I should use quite frequently. And I will actually do a whole video about how I'm using auto ISO in all my photo shoots, almost all my portrait photo shoots that I'm using natural light. I am using auto ISO. It's very, very useful. For white balance, I usually would choose a specific white balance. For me, I go to temperature. I go to 5600, and I stay that way because since I'm shooting raw, I can always change my color temperature later in post. But it's a lot simpler if I do it this way, because so then in case the lighting change a little bit, I can use one setting, because like sometimes the auto is not gonna be perfect. It will change a little bit based on what you're aiming at. But if my lighting condition doesn't change, I would rather have white balance to be the same and then go back to change it later. Picture control, that's again, you could choose whatever you like, because again, I am shooting in raw, so none of this would matter as much unless I'm using the Nikon photo utility tool. This is just for me to choose the one that I feel like is best to see on the screen. So usually I choose, auto, standard, or portraits. Portraits looks pretty good, so that it again doesn't matter that much. All right. Color space, you can choose sRGB and Adobe RGB. That's a little bit more to it, which is like, how much color gamut it has. There's a whole science behind this. You will have to go through it yourself. It's a lot. And I, for some reason, just like Adobe RGB better. But that's, at this point, it's a little bit more preference. So, up to you. Active delighting, again, this is something that you can see instantly applied to JPEG or on the back of your screen. It does make imagine the auto lighting button on your phone. I usually keep it off. I will do post lighting if I want to. I'll do it right here. Long exposure, noise reductions. I have that on. What it does is that when you take a picture that's really noisy, it will take a few seconds to do noise reductions. But sometimes if you have to shoot rapidly, like at a wedding, you can turn that off, because then you kind of freeze yourself from shooting. But I don't shoot frequently enough that I need to do that. So, or like fast exposure or fast shooting. So I think it's fine. Actually, I'll turn it off. I can always do the noise reduction at home since I'm editing in post. High ISO noise reduction. So this one is like how much noise you want to reduce based on the ISO sensitivity. And that's a preference thing. Vignette control, same thing. I keep it at normal. A lot of these settings is for you just to see, but it's not like crucial, because you can change a lot of this in post, both doing camera raw or doing Photoshop to make those changes. All right, diffraction compensation, yeah, I keep it that way. It does, it has to do with when you use very small aperture or high f number, it shows you the diffraction of photos, and I keep it on to help with my camera photos. This is how it looks like. Auto distortion control. Again, auto, sure, turn on, make picture less distorted. That usually is a good thing. Skin softening. I usually actually have that on high. The reason is that I can let my model to instantly see what my edit would kind of look like overall, and it will kind of hide the blemish a little bit. Again, it doesn't affect the raw file, so keep it high is what I usually use. Portrait impression balance, which is something that introduced recently by Nikon. You can choose between mode 1, mode 2, mode 3. I don't remember what the difference between the different setting, but you can choose different one of them to see what it looks like. I guess it adjusts the color of stuff. Let me see, do I just go? Yeah, there you go. I guess mode 1, mode 2, mode 3 is just your own selection, kind of like save settings. So you can make the picture a little bit more tint yellow or tint green or purple, magenta. So I leave that off. I don't really use it, so off. Photo flicker reduction, yes, that's something useful, especially when you shoot with different lights from different country region. That will help you reduce your, the little flicker in the photos, the lines that you see. High frequency flicker reduction, also on. Metering. So how do you want a computer? How do you want a camera to determine, the lights on the what light, how much exposure you use? I'm gonna have that at spot meter, highlight weighted metering. I'm gonna use center weighted metering, which is like, more like it is in the center of where I'm focusing point is and a little bit around it. Instead of the matrix metering. Matrix metering will do maybe more of the whole photos. But again, sometimes if I'm doing dramatic lights, very high contrast, I don't care about the other area where it's dark, because I just want to make sure the part that I'm focused on is exposing correctly. Flash mode, you can choose field flash, red light reduction, rear curtain flash, flash off. This camera doesn't have a flash, so just apply when you put a flash on it. Right now, field is fine. There are other, reason why I use other ones, but kind of use case by case basics. Flash compensation, make flash brighter, make flash darker. Release mode, this is like when you're press a button, it goes single frame, or continuous, for slow. L is for low speed, sorry, that's what L is, low speed, now I remember. And H is high speed. High speed extend is even faster. And then you have C30, 60, and 120. So this camera can shoot 120 frames per second, but it is a crop sensor. It will switch to crop. So only if you need to, for really high speed photos, or else I'm gonna usually choose the first 4 up here. I also usually have one of this button, the function button in the front, to choose how to switch the mode. So instead of coming here in the manual. Same for focusing mode. I use this button. You can do single focus or continuous focus, and of course manual. Also focus, autofocus. Now normally I do use area autofocus, so you can pick out the whole image and find a person. I do portrait photography, so usually there's only one or a few subject in the shot, so that would automatically pick that up. Right now 3D tracking is off. I think it's because I don't have a lens attached to it, but auto area focus makes sense. And you can choose different subject. You can do auto, people, animal, vehicle, airplane. I choose auto, which usually does a really good job. Nikon is like really up in their game when it comes to autofocus these days. And let's see, this is for manual focus subject detection area. That's like when using manual focus. I don't use that most of the time because I'm using a autofocus lens, so yeah. Vibration reduction. This I also usually would turn it on. Again, I don't have a lens plug in right now, so I can't choose it, but I would choose that to be on. Link VR to focus points. So this is like linking your focus points to vibration reduction based on that point. Something they introduced in the Nikon ZF, which is something that I feel like do make sense to have it keep on. So instead of just doing vibration reductions, on just the center point now, actually move the VR based on where you focus the point. So if it's on the left side, it will shift it a little bit to making sure that part is more steady than the rest of the image, instead of doing it flat just in the center. So definitely turn that on. Auto bracketing. If you're doing bracketing photos, then yeah, turn that on. Normally off. HDR overlay. Again, that's when you're doing HDR. So when you combine 2 photos or more at the same time. Right now I'm not. Interval timer shooting, time-lapse videos, those are both options for you to do that when you want to shoot that mode. Same for focus shift shooting and pixel shift shooting. So now that is the photo shooting manual for you. Sorry a lot, and I have to keep going for you. That's so many. Video stuff, we already gone through file naming, destination. File type, you do have different choice. You can do MRAW, ProRes, ProRes 422, and H.265, H.265 8-bit and 10-bit, and H.264 8-bit. If you're not using DaVinci Resolve, I would not suggest you do MRAW and also not ProRes. I would suggest you just stay with the H.265 10-bit. Maybe the ProRes RAW, that might work too, but again, you need to double check your what is your computer compatibility is. The ProRes file do get pretty big, and also choosing different file type would affect what kind of frame size and speed you can do. For example, one of the speed that we're looking forward to is the 1080 at 240 frames per second. As you can see, if I choose ProRes, it does not have that option. So if I want to have that, I would go to H.265. I don't think even ProRes. I mean, ProRes in general doesn't do 240 here. Yep, I'm right. So if I want to do shoot 240, I'll go to H.265 10 bits, and then from there, go down to frame size and frame rate, and now I do see the 1080 at 240 frames per second here available for me to choose. And of course, you can choose different frame size and speed based on your needs. So this is not a one-size-fits-all situation. Video quality, when you're shooting MRAW, I keep it high. Again, but I don't shoot MRAW a lot. It's not really necessary until I'm shooting commercial or if I'm shooting like a film. So I usually don't have to worry that too much. Image area, same as previous, keep it on FX. ISO sensitivity is ISO. White balance, I mentioned that already too. Especially for video, you might want to keep it on just 1 Kelvin. For me, again, 5600s. Active D-lighting, high ISO, and most of this stuff I have gone through earlier when I was talking about the photo stuff, and it is copying from what I have over there. So I am going to ignore most of this. For mic, you can choose, using external mic or line in, which this camera has now a line in for the port. So that's really cool. Auto ISO input sensitivity. Sorry, not ISO, input. So auto is really much like it'll detect how loud the environment is and making sure your voice doesn't, or the sound is not really peaking. But most of the time I would choose manual because I have a very specific setup. Like for example, this setup right now, it's a very controlled environment. A manual makes a lot more sense. But sometimes if you go out to shoot, you do not really know what it's like. Auto might be better, so your audios are not peaking. All right. This one, I usually turn it on. I forgot to double check alternator, but what it does is that I think it has to do with the sound, how it comes in. I forgot exactly what it is. I think I have it on. Not really sure. Double check. Frequency response, I usually do focal range because I shoot people. I don't need the environment. I'm not shooting like the nature, so I keep on focal. Wind noise reduction, yes. Mic jack plug-in power, that's good. So meaning, when you plug in a mic, it will also phantom power it. Headphone volume, if you use a headphone, it tells you, you can see how loud it is. Time code, right now I can't use it because I'm not in maybe a lens or something I set up for it, but just a time code to let you, set a time, to know exactly when something starts so it can match up with the other camera you have or sound that you have. External record control, HDMI, which is when you plug in HDMI cable, can you control the camera using the other things, which are like a monitor. In my case, I'm using one right here. So let's say I want to control this camera using this monitor. I can click stuff here and it will control what I have. So don't worry about too much about it if you don't use a monitor or something HDMI. High res zoom, I will turn it on so you can shoot something with zoom in, high res. Again, I don't have a lens right now, or else again that would be an on for me. All right, let's go for the custom manual. The custom manual, first you can reset all the manual, but let's go through each one of them kind of briefly. I'm not gonna go too far into detail because you can kind of both click on it to see what it means and also kind of explore what you like as a preference rather than what is the correct answer. So, depends on what you like. So this is all about focusing. Usually a lot of this about what you want to choose to, how fast it focus. Do you want to press this half press to do focusing, or how long the camera wait until it adjusts the focus again. So this is all very much preference. So that's kind of up to you of what you want to use. Store points by orientation. I do like that because it does remember where I do my point, so that it doesn't always go back to the center. So I'm gonna keep it at focus points. Yeah. AF activation, autofocus, yes. All of these are pretty good already right out of the box. So I do like focus peaking display. It does. So what it does is that it tells me if I switch it to manual focus, it will tell me what it looks like. It looks like a really cool scanner kind of situation, and I usually like that to just know where my focus is at. Sometimes you can even use it just to kind of see what things are in the same plane. So even if you're using autofocus, you move your manual a little bit, you can kind of give you a idea of like what else is in focus in that shot. All right, and then on the second part we have the metering exposure. This part is really about how it take control of what is the exposure you want to set up. All of this I usually keep it on just the way it was default. This is the one that I change. Easy exposure compensation, meaning sometimes when you're doing, let's say, aperture priority or shutter speed priority, you can change the exposure quickly by just turning the dials, but it will stay that way if you have it on. If it's off, it will not even be available. But I choose on reset, so meaning it stay on that way no matter how I shoot it. But if I turn it off and turn it back on, it will reset back to standards. So my picture won't like, wow, too bright or too dark, because I have the last setting saved. So I usually have it on reset, but I do like the option to have that available for me when I'm using it. All right, and then matrix metering face detection, which is good. So it's just detecting, how bright the exposure should be based on face. Center weight area, standard is fine. Keep exposure when f-stop change. I'm not sure if this is a new thing, but this is great because meaning you can maintain exposure even when you're changing, your shutter speed or your ISO. When you're changing f-stop, the other stuff will change based on that changes. So I would need to play around a little bit more to see, what makes sense. But I haven't really, done a lot of changes with it. But I guess, what it does is that, let's say you change from a f1.2 to a f9, then is the camera going to change the other setting based on that change? I feel like shutter speed would be more ideal, but I'm not sure how it would change based on, is there a minimum shutter speed I can set here? Because I don't see that setting. But speaking of changing setting, one thing you will see is that, even look a bit closer, the letter B above it now has a star. What it means is that you can change it from what its original setting was. So if I change it back to exposure maintenance off, the star disappear. So let's say sometimes you want to change your setting back to the original settings, the default, but you don't know if it's back to default. That is how you can tell. All right, next we're going to do timers and auto exposure lock. So there's only 3 up here, so very easy for you to choose from. Starter release button, AEL, it's just when you have press, that's it, do a auto exposure lock on it or not. You can also again click on the little minus button here. I call it minus button, but it's more like a magnification zoom out button to give you more info. You can tell there's a little question mark next to it that tells you what to do with it. But self timer, which is like if you do a self timer, how many shots it will take and how long the self timer is. Very self-explanatory. Power of display is about how long your screen will stay on when you choose playback, when you're on the manual, when you're on picture review, when you're doing standby. So pretty basic stuff. Next, we're gonna talk about shooting and display. So shooting mode, this is where you can choose the low speed shooting mode, how fast it will shoot, how many shots actually. I usually choose somewhere between 3 to 5, and I do use low shooting speed mode sometimes. The reason is because, let's say I'm doing a photos like this where I don't want to move the camera, I want to keep on holding the shutter button for maybe 5 shots and then let go after the photos are done. Instead of if I'm holding on to it, then when I do the let go motion, I might actually shake the camera when I'm doing this, a bit more dramatic, but sometimes, that does happen. So there is where low speed come in. So usually I set it around 3 to 5 just to get the shot that I need. I hold my breath for that 3 to 5 seconds shot, then I let go after it's fully done. Now there's maximum shot per burst. Default is 200, but now there is 120 frame that you can shoot if using the super high speed mode. So literally you can shoot 120 pictures in just one burst. So now there's an option to choose infinity. So I'm gonna try to set it on infinity to see how that's like. All right. What else do we have? Pre-release capture options. This is like, if you want to have the picture being captured even before you click the shutter, you can choose now up to a full second for that to happen. But I think that's only apply when you're shooting in JPEG mode. I'm not 100% sure. I need to double check my notes again, or like look at the website, or look at the manual. But I think it's only for JPEG when using this extended mode. And then the rest are, just a little bit more of just shooting and display. Another thing I changed here would be the shutter type. Sometimes I use auto, sometimes I use mechanical, sometimes I use electronic shutter. The main benefit for electronic shutter is that it doesn't have any noise because it's not using a shutter. It's just complete just the the sensor just taking a photo. So, but the problem is that while it is quiet, you do have a problem. You might get flickering, or you might get rolling shutter. So, if you're still moving really fast, you might see a little wave to the kind of motion to it. So it really depends on the situation. I have shot a wedding recently for just my friend, not really shooting for them. It's more like I brought my own camera, but because I have electronic shutter on, I instantly realized it doesn't work with the light they have there. The shutter speed just doesn't match up. So then you see all this stripe in your photo. So that's something you do have to watch out for if you do want to choose electronic shutter. Now, extended shutter speed, and also it's just like, if you want to go faster and slower than the one that you want, limited selectable area, like what I mentioned before, full frame, DX 1x1, 16:9, you can turn those on and off here. File number sequence, just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you want to reset it, let's say you finish shoot, let's shoot like 5,000 photos, so it's at 5,489, but you have a new project, you want to reset it, you just click reset, and then go back to on, that means start from 0 again. You do have also other stuff, what do you see when you do your view mode in your live view. Starlight view is interesting. This is for some people that use starlight, which is like when you're shooting nightscape photography and stuff like that. You want, not nightscape, but night star astrology. So let's say you want to shoot stuff and then you don't want to kind of hard to see because you're shooting very, very dark area when you're shooting stars. So you can have that turned on. So when you're looking at your live view up here, your viewfinder, it will, have that starlight option. So things will look kind of dark if only red highlights. Let me show you. If you do warm display color and you turn that on, you can instantly see how it is dark with some red highlights. So it's a lot easier for the eyes to adjust. So you can have those options on. LCD illumination will be this one right here. But now there is a button here that I can just press it. So I don't think I actually need to turn this on or off. View all in continuous mode. I guess that's also when when you're looking at a bunch of photos that you took, do you need to see all of them? And then you have all that stuff like release timing indicator, is it type B, type A, type C? That's different, show you what it looks like when you shoot the pictures. That's again, really much personal preference. And same for stuff. Now grids, I like 4x4 instead of rule of thirds. I like 4x4 preference. Virtual horizontal line, which is like, are you horizontal steady? It would show you. It looks like kind of like a fighter jet kind of like display. So I do like this. It does take up more screen. It does a little bit more in the way, but I use it a lot because I want my picture to be, making sure they're actually level. So I do use type A rather than type B, which is on the side. And then here you can do custom monitor display shooting. So when you're shooting on this monitor, you can choose what you can display. Click the display button up here and you'll cycle through all 5 of them. Or you can turn some of them on or off just to see which option you want. But one thing I learned last year after talking to a Nikon rep is that even though it's shown here, I do not realize it's there at the back in time. But you can actually right click to choose more or less to what it displays for that option, and you just have to click it on and off. I did not know that. I'm like, how can I see the histogram without seeing other stuff? Now, this is actually a relatively new situation because I know the other cameras that I have, like the Z7 and the Z6, doesn't have that option. So this works on this one, so which is great. So I'm glad this is an improvement that they must have done after some user maybe feedback or they just discover people need more options. So that's great to see. Same for viewfinder custom display. You can like choose what you see in here and change what it looks like. High frame per second viewfinder display. This is like when you shoot a bunch, it will show them very smoothly, or to show you one by one. That's very distinctly to show you which shot is one shot. So personal preference for this, I'm gonna have it off. Now the next part we're gonna talk about bracketing and flash. For most of you, I don't think that follows me here are flash shooter. I do start out from shooting flash, so that's actually very much my jam, but that's not for everyone. But it is pretty simple here too, so I'm not gonna go too much in depth about this again. This is something that you'll play with to choose your sync speed, to choose your compensation, to choose like, do you want the ISO to focus more on the subject or subject and background, that kind of stuff. Again, you should know what they are if you do play flash, but if not, click the little question mark on your camera. It will tell you a bit more, but I'm not going too much into this right now. All right, next, let's go talk about control. This is the stuff that you can have, for example, for your customized menu, that you just click the I button on your camera when you're shooting. So right here, you can choose a lot of different settings. You just click on it and then choose a different one that you want. And you can just change into whatever setting you want. One of the one that I do usually have is silent shooting, so that I can easily go into silence mode without disturbing people right there. So you can have that. You can have that the difference between what it looks like when you're shooting photos and video. Right now in the photo section, so it is showing photos, but later when we go to the next manual part, it will change the setting for just videos. There's also custom controls, and this is mostly talking about physical buttons. So you can actually change some of the buttons to change what they can do. Some of the buttons you can't change, but some you can. Obviously, the function 1 and 2 in the front, you can change those. That's mostly is what you're for, is to change this function to based on what you need. Most of the time, I have one of them is for changing the focus mode, and the other one is doing the release mode. So doing one photos or slow or high speed. So those are quick settings I can instantly change. Just hold on to the button and then change the dial. It will change those settings for you. And then you can also have different settings for those when you're in the playback menu. So when you're looking through photos, you can actually have that based on maybe you want to rate photos, which is something I did talk about when I'm shooting event photography or like an esport event. I have a video about that, which is very useful if I want to rate the photo instantly. So when I go back to my computer, I instantly know what photos turn out great, and I know that while I'm shooting, so I don't have to go back home later to figure out which was a good photos and try to remember which shots and slowly go through them. All right, and then lastly, touch focus, control lock, reverse dial, which your dial, does it go this way or that way to change your settings? The indicator, is it going from brighter on that side or darker on that side, or overexposed or underexposed. So lots of these are, again, very much preference kind of stuff, and I don't explain too much about that. All right, now let's go into the video settings here. As I said earlier, you can change the menu just differently for video mode. So if I swap it to video mode, it will have a different set of menu that I can choose from, which makes sense because some of the settings do apply for video and some only apply to photos. So having two of them, it is very useful. Custom control, same thing as I said before, the buttons that you have, and then all the stuff. Control lock, you want to lock the shutter speed, you want to lock the aperture, you can do that here. And then all the other stuff are pretty similar to the photo stuff. Now, one part that I haven't really talked about before in our video, but I did make one Instagram reel for this, which I think is very crucial for lots of videographers who started doing videos that they are struggling with focusing, the focusing speed, or like people doing unboxing. This is very important. So listen up. I'm gonna do a quick cut to making sure that my video is not. So this is quite important. The AF speed is autofocus speed. So let's say you have a subject here and then you have a subject here. you try to make it go from this focus to this focus. How fast does it go? Does it go slowly and then go in focus? Or is it very fast where it go from, this to instantly focus on this object over here? I mean, pretend like this over here, but like change the focus speed. So now the AF tracking sensitivity, that is a very important one. So listen up. Again, this is what once you figure like, oh my God, this is why I have been so much trouble in my videos. This is gonna solve a lot of issue. What it means is that how sensitive it is from tracking something. So it goes from high to low, high is 1, low is 7. I wish the numbers are reversed, but it is what it is. So low is what it means is that like it will stay in a subject. This is something that you want when you like go through a crowd, but you want to making sure that objects or subject that you're focusing is stay in the shot of focusing. You use that for low. But there are times that you do want high, which is actually what I use on the camera you look at me right now, because I do unboxing and I show people what I'm unboxing when I'm doing that. So at high, what it means is that it goes from one focus to another things that really instantly. So it makes sense for me when I'm doing this is that when I put this in front of me that cover my face, see how fast it's picking up this camera in focus inside my face. You can kind of see my face in the background. It is kind of blurry, but if I put this away, my face is instantly in focus. See how fast that was? It was tracking to me really quickly. See, my face cover, instantly on camera, instantly on face. Same for my hand. On my hand, on my face. So this is something that actually make a huge difference when it comes to not just the technical part about shooting, but also the storytelling. So sometimes, you need to use those kind of settings to change based on how you want your audience to look at your videos. So keep that in mind. All right, the rest are the same thing, your zoom speed and then stuff like, fine ISO control. Do you want like small adjustment? Do you want extended shutter speed, which is something that's useful when you're doing like flickering situation, so you can change your shutter speed so you're not getting flickering in your shots. Will assist zebra pattern. This is something that you actually use when you want to making sure something is not overexposed, so it gives you a zebra pattern to warn you if something is too exposed, overexposed. So here you can change the setting. I usually have it on the highlight when it's too bright, and then you tell me what the threshold is, what is the mid-tone range. You can choose those two to depend based on those to see if something's too bright, too dark, and then you might want to change it up a little bit if that happens. All right, grid type again, 4x4 is my jam. I'm gonna go with that. Histogram, different type of histogram that you want to show you. Actually, histogram is this waveform monitor. It just different ways to tell you what kind of exposure you're getting. So some people like to use the waveform, some people use like the histogram. Up to you. Custom monitor shooting menu, similar to photography. As I said earlier, you can customize each of those 4. You just right click on it and just choose more option that you want. And once you click done, it will save there. Same for when you're doing, shooting video, but using the viewfinder, you can see what you want to change. And lastly, it's the red record frame indicator, which is something that's surprisingly useful and was not there in the first place, and I was surprised how useful it is once they introduce it. What it means that when you record video, the whole frame has a giant red square along the edges, the frame, to show you it is recording. It is something that is very useful because let's say you're doing a whole project, you're shooting a video, and you think you got your shot, and then later you realize, oh shoot, you did not press record, and that's when you have to lie to your, your subject and say, let's try one more shot when you had no shot at all. And that happened to people before, including myself. So now with that on, it'll be really obvious to you when your recording is actually, in the shot and you are actually recording. Like, just give you a giant red frame. Yeah. All right. Next, we do have the playback manual. There's not too much to talk about the playback manual. It is pretty straightforward. You have different options. What kind of folder you're using. You want to delete photos, you can use this. I do want to talk about the display option actually. One thing I do turn on is a focus point. What it means is that when I see the picture, it will give you a red square to show you where was the focus point. And for me, usually I do focus on my subject eyes in my portrait shots. But if I see that the red square is like on someone's arm or like, on their neck, then I already know the shot was not in focus. And that instantly give me an idea of like, oh, I need to reshoot that shot instantly. So that's why I have that turned on. Other stuff are, pretty much, it tells you in the title, picture review, instantly take the shot. Is it on or off? You can have it on monitor only, so meaning when you're shooting and using your monitor, not with your viewfinder, and only have your monitor to show you. But if you're shooting with your viewfinder, which is you most likely more intense shooting, so maybe then you don't really need to instantly see the photos to get in your way. So I maybe have a monitor, but most of the time I don't really need it because the autofocus is great. I don't have to check the focusing, so I usually have that off. Only in some situation I have it on for a monitor in case I need to instantly see the photo and how they turn out. After delete, after delete the photos, you want to see the picture before it or after it, and kind of stuff. Lastly, auto rotate picture, which is like when you take a vertical photo and if you're holding this way, you can still see it right side up instead of showing sideways. But the problem is that you have two black bars on the side, so it's not taking full advantage of the monitor. So kind of a preference kind of thing. And copy image, you just copy an image from one card to another. Pretty self-explanatory. Let's go into the setup manual. The setup manual is mostly talking about the setup of the camera itself. So more of like, let's say, languages or time zone, monitor brightness. This again, you can kind of guess what is based on just the title. But again, if you're not sure, click the little question mark. It should give you a little help guide for some of the more complicated settings. But when I start using this camera, I usually don't have to do too much to it. I don't change anything other than time, and also the comments and the copyright information. So you can add image comments and copyright information which attach to the raw file or even the JPEG, when it recorded. One thing you have to keep in mind is that it doesn't mean it will copyright your image. So it doesn't mean you're safe from people stealing your shots. People, once they have the file, they can wipe those information instantly, easy. But it's more for you to keep track of your files, or in case someone found your file, they can know where to find you. So sometimes people don't just put their name, they put their phone number, or they put their email address, or put their website, so they can have those information already embedded in the image file after they shot the shot. All right, the next set of manuals are the network manual, but that's mostly about, things that you want to connect the camera to, let's say, online, or let's say want to connect to your phone using, Nikon Bridge, or let's say your Nikon Imaging Cloud. This is something that's only useful when you do have to do those connection stuff. There's not a lot of setting you can change from here. But I will talk about this someday in a different video, because I want to talk about how I would do photo tethering when I'm doing photo shoots, or like how I can like let's say NAB, a show I went to recently where I did my workshop. I show people my image, instantly show the results wirelessly. How would I do that? Or if I want to use a wire cable, and how do I transfer a file instantly from my camera to my computer? It's all in this setting, this manual. So those are the things that you'll use very specifically for a very specific situation. The only one that maybe you use more is connect to a smart device, so you can send your photos directly from your camera to your phone. But other than that, again, self-explanatory. Use it when you need it, or else you don't have to touch it. And lastly, there is a My Manual function. Right now, it is empty because it is a new camera. But what it means is that I can add items here so I can quickly access them. For example, let's say I do like to use auto ISO, but I do not want the speed to be too fast. Too slow, so then I can still get the shot. So I would go here, choose photo shooting manual, and let's say ISO sensitivity settings. Now you can go into each sub menu and pick that one specific item. So let's say you want to do auto ISO sensitivity control on and off. You click it, you bring it in, it's right there. So I can turn it on or off easily right here. But if you wanted to, you can also bring in the main menu that before that. So let's say I want this menu that include all the sub setting in there. I just click this and click OK, and now it does bring it into here. So I can go into my menu, click on this, and now expand it to the rest of them. So I don't have to go through the whole camera to find a specific setting I want. And it's not just for the shooting manual. If I want to, let's say, go in, I can go to custom setting manual. I want to change how the video sensitivity, the tracking sensitivity is for the autofocus, I can bring that in instantly in here. And depends on how often you use each item, you can rank them. So meaning again, bring the first item down below or this one top. So this way, you can have making sure you have all your settings that you want to use frequently right there with just a few clicks. Alright, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it's helpful for you to set up your new Nikon camera, your new Z6III. I do have like other camera that I have used before, the Z7, 8, 9. All those cameras that I've tried before, they have pretty similar manual. So if you're used to the Nikon system, it's gonna be very helpful for you to use that kind of as a reference about a camera. What I usually do when I get a new camera is that I look at my old camera and look at my new camera and just go through each setting one by one to see what I've used and just transfer those settings to there. But if it's the first time you're using this, hopefully this video will be helpful for you to set up your Nikon camera. Again, my name is Wong. If you have a question or comment, please leave it down below. But if you like this video and you find it helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. That'll be very helpful for me. I want to bring this number a little bit higher, so then encourage me to make more videos like this for you. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.